if you are a seller and you're looking at your own house and thinking, yeah, I mean, my house is nice, the photos are nice, my furniture is nice. I didn't go through all the trouble of all the upgrades and staging, but it looks nice. Like I should be able to sell my house. And we are live. Hey, everybody, this is Richard Wayland, owner and broker of the Imagination Brokerage. I am absolutely thrilled to be coming to you live from our studio here in beautiful Santa Ana, California. So the big word on everybody's mind is how slow the real estate market has gotten. Let's take a look at some recent news headlines. All right, so this was actually at the beginning of the summer. We were already noticing that there were 500,000 more sellers than buyers. Kind of breaking a record since they say here since 2013. That definitely was something that I don't sell real estate all over the entire country, but I'm active on both coasts, and definitely seeing some really strange things going on. It just seemed like all of a sudden, after a few years of a holding pattern, for no apparent reason, all of a sudden, a bunch of people wanted to sell all at once. I'm assuming it was sort of essentially a built up demand for changing lives. Like over the last couple years, people have been really holding off on making any buying or selling decisions because of the interest rates. And even though the interest rates didn't have a substantial change this year, it just all of a sudden everyone just thought, you know what, if this is the new normal, then to heck with it. Let's go ahead and start moving. Another trend that I've noticed is that a lot of the sellers, if not the majority of sellers that I've encountered, are all baby boomers, some of whom bought their homes quite a substantial time ago. Even just 20 years ago, the interest rates were about the same as they are now. And if you look back, people who bought, 30 or 40 years ago, I mean, there's people that have approached me as clients this past year who talk about how they bought their house back when interest rates were, in the teens, like 18%, back in the 80s. And of course, the houses were a lot less expensive back then. A lot of them bought their houses for $100,000, less than $200,000, even in Southern California. And so a lot of them are sitting there thinking, you know what? Yes, interest rates are high right now. And maybe there's been some ups and downs in property value over the past year. But at the end of the day, they're still profiting typically over $1 million on their home sale. Again, these are just, Southern California numbers. I know they're a little wild to the rest of the country, but by and large, people are saying, listen, if I'm going to make $1 million, I don't really care if it's give or take a few thousand or even tens of thousands of dollars. I'm happy with how much I've gained in this transaction. And so what we're seeing is, as baby boomers are typically either downsizing, so maybe they've got a piece of property that is, that's just too big for them, too much yard to maintain, too much house to maintain, no longer need all those extra bedrooms because all their, kids have moved out. They're looking to change. They're looking to downsize. Another huge reason I am seeing is, by and large, millennials have kind of scattered all around the country looking for affordable housing. And a lot of the baby boomers that live in here are thinking, oh, you know what? My kid just had a baby. So, I want to go be close to my grandchildren. So that's something that I'm hearing a lot. And so people are moving either way out into the suburbs or, to some of the more affordable places, either in the state or even out of state, to go be closer with their grandchildren. And that obviously, totally makes sense. And, it's just, it is, however, kind of flooding the market with a lot of these homes that all have a lot of very similar features, a lot of similar designs and styles. And it is causing, in some markets, really, really long days on market and lower values. So let's get more into some of the specifics, or at least let's actually go through a few more headlines first. I got a specific question about this a few weeks ago. The worst housing market in America, Florida's Cape Coral. In the article, this is from the Wall Street Journal, they talk about how basically half the homes that were on the market at the time, this was back in, this came out in late June, about half the homes on the market were just sitting and sitting and sitting. A lot of people starting to just give up on selling their houses and taking them off the market. If you kind of understand very roughly how the Florida housing market works, it might not be a massive surprise to you, since it's pretty much it's really driven by retirees. And so if the retirees are trying to sell or downsize or relocate, and Florida just has a very dense concentration of people in that age range, in that stage of life, it's just all hitting all at once. And so, yeah, it's just, we've just seen huge slowdowns in the real estate market in Florida. It is also something where, bear in mind, this isn't like crashing way below, I guess, historic numbers. It's more like, ever since the pandemic, we've seen a huge increase in people on the East Coast going ahead and buying their Florida retirement homes now, possibly relocating down there. But basically, overall, a lot of people seeking better weather, more greenery, more space compared to where they currently live. And so, so that's just, there was a huge spike in property values in most notably in Georgia and in Florida over the last 5 years. And now maybe we're seeing something of a more natural, organic correction to that huge spike. As we get to an article that is much more recent, this came out just a couple weeks ago here in August. We are looking at, here's a chart of average days on market for the past 13 years, so ever since 2012. So you can kind of see 2012 was a year where we were still going down in property values, and still kind of coming off the Great Recession there. And you'll see that it that was when it was at its peak. But right here, right around 2015, is where we're seeing kind of the similar velocity. Here, 2015 and 2025. There have been a few other metrics too that are comparing 2025 to 2015 that are all very telling of a market that is slowing down and becoming a quote unquote buyer's market. Now, I personally don't like to use the terms buyer's market and seller's market, because I feel like you should make your moves in your life based more on your needs in this moment than really trying to gauge or time the overall market. It is much easier to make the mistake of buying or selling, I guess, the wrong thing at the wrong time in your life than it's like a higher risk of that than buying or selling something that is the wrong time for the market. And I've got another video series that we talk a little bit more about that. Because real estate's extremely local, hyper local, as they say, that something that may be overall true or look overall true for the whole country actually really may not apply to your specific neighborhood where you're thinking to buy or thinking to sell. And so really it's much more important to be very, very familiar with the behavior of your specific city, your specific zip code, than it is to try to think, oh, is it on a macro scale a good time to buy or a good time to sell? And especially over the last 5 years, ever since the pandemic, I have felt that the real estate market has been more manic than any other time that I've had in my 10 plus years career, 11 plus years career. that, you can be you can see a house that has gone up 10% in value and then get in your car and drive 20 minutes to a house that's gone down 10% in value. And so, bear in mind that when we talk about these macro numbers, they are really just sort of a very surface level summary of the volatility that's actually really going on a house by house basis. So all right, so let's at least kind of break it down city by city here and kind of take, Los Angeles is the by far the biggest market in Southern California, the city of Los Angeles. And so, we're looking that LA is down 1.2% over the past year. Median value 951,000. Now it's a tiny bit misleading because as we get down here, we can kind of see that it's actually down quite a bit off of its peak. So for whatever reason, it peaked in December, January. Maybe some of the people here were very sensitive to some of the slight drops in interest rates that happened right around here, or found some things that were a little bit more just some more affordable stuff started coming on, and so there was a little pop as people got really excited and snatched up some of those properties. But basically from its peak here, we see it was up to 990. Now we're down to a median value of 951. So really, even though, nominally it's been a 1% drop this year, we're actually kind of thinking about more of maybe more like a 4% drop off the peak. And that's about consistent with what I've seen in a lot of different areas. Anyway, so Los Angeles is a really kind of one of our primary markets here, and it's going to overall be less sensitive to the kind of overall motions of the country, just because it's always going to be a very dense in demand area to live. Let's take a look at San Diego. All right, so San Diego, this is a great example of what I would call more of a secondary city, right? So Los Angeles, San Francisco, New York, these are your kind of your primary markets where those behave just kind of in a certain way. And then San Diego, Sacramento, and to some extent, even where I invest in the Midwest in Cleveland, they all sort of behave as secondary markets. San Diego kind of like maybe like like secondary plus, because it's like right on the edge of being a primary market. And you see San Diego has a kind of a different sort of behavior. It sort of peaked last summer and now is quite a bit off that peak. But if you look at sort of the distance from here down to here, like long story short, we're seeing that the secondary markets, it's like the further and further you get from being a primary market, the more volatile your real estate market has been. We are definitely seeing sharper drops here. We are seeing, here's Palm Springs. This is what I would call a tertiary market. This is way out there in the desert. It's far from cities. It's far from a lot of job creators and things like that. We've also seen some other things going on in Palm Springs, where Palm Springs has been all of kind of the deep, like the desert counties have been really cracking down on Airbnb. And Airbnb was something, just in general, like short-term rentals really were kind of propping up this housing market over the last 5 years, or one could argue driving it up too high. And so people, the actual residents didn't like that. And so they've been pushing back on that to try to make housing more affordable. And they've been very successful because housing values have been dropping. Days on market has been, much, much longer. Yeah, this was up to 65 median days to pending. So it's 150% of the national average. I mean, that's not not insignificant, and substantial drops in value. Okay, all right. Let's take a look at some good news. All right. Again, this is from the perspective of a seller. This is one of my, I guess, sort of main markets that I work in, Chino Hills. It's where I grew up for a lot of my childhood, and we live right near there today. And so this is my backyard. This is where I have been doing a lot of my work the past year or two, and you can see they are actually up. Um, again, you can kind of see similar Los Angeles. It actually had sort of a peak in the kind of earlier this year, and it's off a little bit off that peak, but I mean, it's a very small drop overall. And basically, what we're seeing is that places like Chino Hills and like anyone that lives in Southern California may be able to guess what I'm going to click on next here, Irvine. All right. Irvine is somehow become one of the most desirable places in the entire world to live. Just looking at the numbers, to be in this down of a market and still going up 5% year over year. I mean, you look at the amount that it's gone up in 5 years, and it's just, I mean, it's just, I mean, almost straight as an arrow there. And a big, I mean, yeah, look at that. Like, I mean, even when the interest rates were at their worst, there's just a tiny, tiny little dip there. And that's just because there are certain places that are perceived as being like the ideal city in Southern California to start a family and raise kids. And so we're seeing that anyone that has the spending power is going into one of a handful of places, and Chino Hills and Irvine would be, I guess, two of the top ones, where it's just, the school districts are great. You walk around, it feels very clean, very safe, very green, very beautiful. And so, if you're trying to sell in a market like that, you probably aren't even looking at this video because you don't need any help to sell your house. All right, let's take a look here at this is a market if you are a buyer, is something that you want to take a really close look at. I feel like Mission Viejo is kind of sitting right on that cusp of being kind of a good balance between, still gaining in value, but not, you see, like this is sort of like loop, right back down to where it was. Um, like just a really good balance of buying and selling value. And one of the things that's going on, we just went and toured some clients around here a couple weeks ago, and it's just there's a lot of very identical looking houses. Because the whole city was sort of developed all at once by a small handful of developers, and they all just are very, very similar. And I want to bring this up both from a buying perspective. Hey, right now, if you're looking to buy in Southern California, you're looking for something for, let's see, median's 1.2, but we were finding a lot of great properties around the 1 million mark. So if you're shopping in that, high 900s to maybe 1.1 range, which is very common for kind of millennials buying in Southern California right now, then I think Mission Viejo is one of the top places in Southern California to be looking. But as a seller, coming back to the theme of the video, as a seller, it is really educational to look at a market where, all right, we've got a whole bunch of product that is all sized and shaped and located about the same. So let's take a look at some of the very specific strategies that they employed to sell their properties and see, essentially who was successful and who was not. I'm going to start with this one was sold for $1 million. This was just like last week, closed on August 22nd. There aren't more photos of this, but I wanted to kind of like show this to you just sort of as a benchmark. All right. So we're going to primarily be looking for houses that are 3 bedrooms, 2 bath, a little right around 1,500 square feet. Okay. And this one sold for $1 million. There's no photos of the interior at this point. Not sure exactly why, but they pulled those photos down. But here we've got one Very, very similar floor plan, very similar layout. Also sold for about 1 million. A little bit smaller than our kind of specific range we were looking at, but I wanted to draw some attention to just basically how they positioned their property. Right, we've got very mid-tier photography, zero staging. They did not repaint the walls at all, or if they did, they chose this peach color, which is not fashionable right now. They've got these old oak cabinets in the bathroom. Kind of minimal work to the exterior. I mean, Mission Viejo is, I mean, look at this. Like, Mission Viejo is awesome. And so they're really just trying to kind of sell it on the neighborhood, the amenities. Like all these properties have access to Lake Mission Viejo, which has like a really cool little beach and everything. So, lots of really cool community amenities that they're really trying to carry this house on. And they didn't even, they weren't even brave enough to show what the kitchen looks like at all. So, so I don't know what that really says about the kitchen, or if that was just an oversight. But yeah, that's not something that's going to appeal very strongly to millennial buyers. Millennial buyers, by and large, like, have spent a lot of time watching HGTV. They've been looking at Zillow longingly for a decade and have just very refined tastes for the aesthetics that they're looking at, that they're looking for. And, sort of appropriately see, at least they priced it correctly. They came onto the market at 985, and you can see that they were on the market for just about a month, and were able to get 20K over asking. So I'd say that this is an example of one that may not have been staged and presented in the best light, but sometimes when you use the correct pricing strategy, all right, you are able to still win, because pricing is a huge component of success in the market these days. All right, that brings us back to why were we looking at all of these Zillow statistics pages? Okay, so one of the things that I find very educational about these market summaries that Zillow does is you are able to here. Let's do Chino Hills. Okay. So you're able to very quickly look through here and see, basically what is the pricing strategy that people are employing here. Okay, let's see, just 47% are going over list price, 40% for under list price. Is pretty normal. We are seeing basically what we're looking for is we want to get some hints on, should we be trying to price above the market or below the market. I, in general, mostly work in competitive markets where it is most advantageous to price below what the market value is, get a bunch of offers, and drive it up above where the market value would normally be. And some of these pages, when you look at like a specific zip code, a specific house, will even kind of go through and show, median difference between list to price. And I like to look at that for some hints on, basically, I guess, what is the trendy amount of percentage points below list that you can price at. And for a lot of the markets around here, again, I really just mostly focus personally on very competitive markets, but we also do a lot of work in some of the slower markets too. In general, about 3% below market is sort of a sweet spot strategically to be able to really grab people's attention without being, I guess, suspiciously low, like being too obvious of a ploy, and without actually harming the actual value of your house. All right, and we can see that here almost on the dot That's what they did. They came in. They probably knew that they were about $1 million in value, especially looking at some of their contemporaries on the market like this one. And so they came in 1.5% below that. And in today's world, all of this is driven by the search algorithms and kind of the behaviors of people on their mobile phones. When this house hits the market, all right, you get a little notification at the top here, and just one tiny photo. This photo is probably only about half an inch by half an inch. That is all the real estate that you have to capture somebody's attention. Okay, and if it is low and like the price is low and that first photo is done just right, they will tap on it. Like you will have won, you will have successfully captured their attention for a few more seconds. They tap the button. They look at the photos. There's good photos. Now this is really where the homes that do really well differ from the homes that just do okay. Let's say somebody taps on this and now they see, we're going to do, these are, A grade photos, good color saturation, good composition, the interior like immediately goes to the kitchen because that's what people really like. I mean, like if you have really green, beautiful backyard, that's a great place to start too. And we can see they didn't do anything that special with this. This is not an expensive job to do, white shaker cabinets and slab countertops. This is, probably this specific one, maybe like a $20,000 job. You can do these for as low as 10 to 15,000 if you're really pinching pennies. Okay. We've got our canned lights. This probably already had, I know a lot of the houses here seem to already have canned lights from the 90s. And so all they did here is they went in and they replaced these with LED light bulbs. So they didn't even really go through all the trouble of like rewiring and adding new fixtures. Just put LED light bulbs in there. And then they just did some really nice staging. Right? Really, really nice staging. They painted everything white. They used, so nobody likes gray floors anymore. We're seeing these sort of sandy tan colored floors that are, they're what's in. And you see your decor items have this kind of, mostly white with some, contrast with some black and gold. And that is, listen, I don't make what the trends are. I just, report them as I see them. Okay. So that's what people are doing. That's what is selling. And you can see here, they got an extra $100,000 for their trouble. Okay. And again, all of these houses, very similar sizes, very similar shapes, very similar condition, built around the same time. Overall, the only difference, like it probably cost these guys overall, let's say about $35,000 to add $100,000 in value to their house. Okay. And be able to sell it much faster and much more confidently. Here's one that's under contract right now. And you can see they didn't even spend that much money. Okay. They all they did is they really came in here and they did paint it, they did stage it. But this is sort of a B or C class staging. They probably only spent maybe $4,000 on the staging. This kitchen, all they did is they painted it blue. They had the existing, whatever was existing there, and they just painted it blue. If I recall correctly, I think this may have even been the one where it looked like they painted the backsplash white. So somebody did that. Somebody, when we did some tours of these houses in Mission Viejo, there's these old, like kind of thin layered glass tiles that are really not cool anymore. And someone just painted them glossy white, and it looked really dynamite in the photos. Here you go. Staged a couple of the bedrooms here. You can tell whenever they stage one of the rooms as just like a sitting room, like a couple chairs and desk, you know that's where they were saving some money. They saved some money in how they staged the backyard here. So but they came in at a good price, and so they got snatched up. And so we won't know for a few more weeks to find out, what they closed at. But I would roughly guess that this is, over the ask. This is going to be somewhere around a million, let's say a million 20. No, no, no. Maybe like maybe more similar to the one that closed for like a million and 5,000 or something like that. So maybe just like a little like $5,000 to $10,000 over ask. All right, which brings me to this one. This one has unfortunately been on the market for 75 days. Okay. They, kind of bounced around a little bit in the values that they listed at. They just staged with the existing furniture that was there, and it looks nice enough, but it's missing some of those key features that with just a tiny little bit of work, just like a tiny, like a few thousand, like if someone just took, let's say $10,000 and went through and changed the light fixtures, repainted the walls a lighter color. Overall, I mean, lighting is a big deal. And then like did some new photographs on this. It would easily compete with that last one that we saw that sold for 1.1 easily. The house is in excellent condition, and this is the sort of thing where I would advise any of you, if any of you are looking for something in this price range, this is an unbelievable house. This was my favorite house of that tour day. My client ultimately ended up deciding to go with something more in Irvine, closer to where he worked, but this was for me like kind of the one that got away, because I feel like it is such a steal at this price. It's really close to the freeway. There's just a lot of great things going for it that I think will hold appeal long in the future and help to boost its value more aggressively than other homes like it. And so, yeah, so if you're a buyer right now, I suggest that you give me a call and let's make an offer on this together. And if you are a seller and you're looking at your own house and thinking, yeah, I mean, my house is nice, the photos are nice, my furniture is nice. I didn't go through all the trouble of all the upgrades and staging, but it looks nice. Like I should be able to sell my house. I picked this example here because my guess is that you're probably in this situation where just because of the color of the floors and the style of the cabinets and the color of the tone of the lighting, somebody looked at it on their phone, was like, oh, $1,050,000? No thanks. They swiped it away and they didn't see it again. That's the big thing. You have half a second to capture their attention and their imagination. And if you don't get them in that moment, they just swipe it away, put their phone down, and odds are they might not ever see it again. And so the algorithms are so important these days, because the vast majority of people house hunting are using the apps to do that. They're not just coming to real estate agents to say, hey, what's for sale, and send me some emails and things like that. They are doing it with Redfin or Zillow, and they are getting push notifications on their phone whenever something comes up that matches their search criteria. And if it doesn't catch them right away, might as well not exist anymore. Okay, so let's say that you're in this position, and let me kind of, I don't want to disparage any specific agent, so I'm going to just go back to this view here, and so I'm not talking about any specific house. I recommend doing a reset of your whole presentation. If you really feel like there's you've got a lot going for your house, the pricing was right, like it's in good shape, and just for some reason it just keeps sitting on the market. My guess is it is just some very simple aesthetic changes that if you take the house off the market, set aside, some money to go in there and, redo the paint, redo the lighting, hire a really top notch stager, hire a really good real estate agent that's going to get in there and really push it on social media, do some incredible videos on it that really kind of tell the story of the house, and basically come back on the market within a couple weeks, almost as if the house has been fixed and flipped, because that's basically the perception you want. You don't want to go off the market and then just come back on a couple weeks later with the same photos and the same presentation, the same description, the same everything, because that is a huge sign of weakness. People will see that and it'll be like, oh, maybe they went into escrow and it fell out of escrow because something's wrong with the house. Every time you kind of pull the house off and put it back on like that, it tangibly drops the value of the house. In Southern California, I would roughly say that you lose about $20,000 in value every time you pull the house off and put it back on with all the same stuff. But if you completely remove the listing and do all new photos with some new staging and paint and lighting choices, and you get back on the market this time with a price that is again, within most markets that I work in, about 3% below what you feel like the market value really is of the house, it's going to suddenly reach a much wider audience and impact them a lot harder than it ever did before. Like you're going to, like, whenever the Imagination Brokerage does a listing on a house, we aim for at least 1,000 exposures on Redfin before our first open house. And Zillow's a little bit behind that nowadays. It's like 500 or so, but like we aim for approximately about 500 to 1,000 views on Zillow and about 1,000 to 2,000 views on Redfin. And we like to be marked by Redfin as a hot home because lots of people are looking at it, clicking through the photos. Lots of people are adding it to their favorites. When people interact with that listing in that way, Redfin marks it as being a popular home or even a hot home that then further increases its visibility. So whenever we get marked as a hot home, it almost doubles the amount of exposure. Thousands of people are now looking at it each day. And, we go in there really hard with, 2 big open houses, Saturday and Sunday. We like to go for at least 4, maybe 5 or 6 hours on those open houses, extending either before or substantially later than all the other open houses that weekend, so that everybody's finishing up all of their tours and always saving ours for last, because our open house is an hour or 2 later than everyone else's, right? And so they come to our house last, which leaves kind of the best lasting impression. And in every transaction we've done this summer, we've been able to sell a house in 8 days or less. We get at least 2 or 3 or more offers over the course of the weekend, certainly by that Monday or Tuesday. And then by Wednesday, we have our sellers sitting down, choosing their final offer after some negotiation and trying to kind of bid up those prices. Because now we have multiple competing offers. We're bidding up the prices and selling, sending back counter offers and things like that. And then if we usually list on a Monday or Tuesday to try to get as much exposure as possible leading up to the open house weekend. Then we do the open house, and then by Wednesday we are choosing one of the offers and going to escrow. It is honestly a very, very simple model, and it has for this whole year has worked for us really, really, really well. One of the questions that I have been getting a lot is, basically like how important is the staging really? And I'll say, it really depends. I mean, I think that whenever you have a certain feature that you're really trying to show off, staging is usually the best way to do that. For instance, in our one of our listings about 6 months ago in Los Angeles, we really wanted to emphasize the fact that the den had been converted into a really beautiful bedroom. It showed like a master bedroom because it was just like a big, beautiful room. Um, if we hadn't done the staging in that room like a bedroom, people may still have looked at it and thought, I don't know, this is really just a den with a door, right? But because we really beautifully staged it with, a big king or queen size bed, lots of really nice decor, lighting, end tables, the whole deal, people were really able to look at that and never questioned the fact that it was a real bedroom. And that increased the psychological bedroom bathroom count of the house from 2 bedrooms to 3 bedrooms, and that one factor added $100,000 value to that house. One of the other things that I like to do is I like to emphasize whenever a garage has the potential to be additional living space. And so it costs an extra $1,000 to stage it as living space. But if that extra $1,000 can get you tens of thousands of dollars in added value, it is 100% worth it. And so in any situation where, let's say your driveway has enough space to be able to park cars, so people don't need to park in the garage, and let's say you've always just used it as storage in the past, the optimal use of that garage is don't just use it to just kind of store a bunch of junk while you're selling your house. Move all the junk out and have your stager dress it up as a man cave, or as even like a additional sleeping space, or couch and the TV, something like that, because that really helps people to better visualize that garage as truly additional living space. And then lastly, staging exterior spaces. As we saw in these photos, none of these houses really did except for that. So the only house that really substantially staged their exterior was the one that sold for $100,000 more, $50,000 more than its competition. And, people in Southern California, especially when they're buying in Orange County, they're buying into a dream of enjoying the beautiful weather, enjoying the greenery. A lot of these people are moving down here from Los Angeles, or moving from other parts of the country where they may not so easily have those amenities of a lot of, sunshine, 360 days out of the year, and perfect weather, etc. And so you really, really, really want to emphasize that with beautiful, luxurious patio furniture. I like to put a large dining set outside so that people can really imagine themselves dining al fresco. String some cafe lights, which by the way are just $30 at Costco. Buy some cafe lights, string them in your backyard. Doesn't matter how big or small your backyard is, those cafe lights add $10,000 in value by themselves. Fire pits are something that's really, really easy. You just put up a fire pit, and it immediately, fire pit with like a couple of those little lounge chairs, and maybe even stage it with a couple little snacks, drink holders, little s'mores roasting sticks. It just really paints this picture of, oh, I'm going to spend my summer evenings out here roasting marshmallows. I'm going to, invite my friends over for some, drinks and alfresco dining. These are the classic things of the the key selling features of Southern California lifestyle. So let's really emphasize that very intentionally with the way the house is staged. Wherever you're seeing this, if you have any questions, if you have any comments, please feel free to leave them down below. I will read your questions and comments live on camera the next time I do one of these, which will probably be, I'm trying to do these every week. And, happy to, so happy to basically give every single one of your questions my full love and attention to make sure that you get the information that you need. All right. Well, thanks so much, everybody, for joining us today for this live presentation. Again, my name is Richard Wayland, owner and broker of the Imagination Brokerage. We are broadcasting to you live here from our beautiful studio in Santa Ana, California. We do work all over Southern California. So if you are looking to buy or sell anywhere in Southern California, I mean, my last few transactions were Los Angeles, Inland Empire, San Diego, Orange County. Like I'm everywhere. Anywhere that you would like to buy or sell, please feel free to reach out to me. Please feel free to reach out with any questions or answers anytime. There's no person who is too early in the process for me to want to talk to them, even if I can maybe just gently nudge you in the right direction so that a couple years from now, you're in an optimal position to buy or sell a house. I am happy to give that advice to you absolutely for free. Thank you so much for joining us, and I hope you'll join us again next week. Find us at imaginationbroker.com.